gotta hover.
Juneteenth is known as the Black Independence Day, which was commemorated in 1865 to mark the ending of slavery in the U.S., even though technically slavery hadn't actually ended. You see, Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863, only freed slaves that lived in states that he was at war with. The emancipation didn't apply to the slaveholding border states of Maryland, Delaware, Kentucky, Missouri, or West Virginia. Slavery was still legal. You can imagine how confusing this was. Annie Davis, a slave from Maryland, wrote President Lincoln on April 25th, 1864, more than a year after this proclamation. In her letter, she references wanting to leave and find her family, but that her mistress wouldn't allow her to. Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation stated that all persons held as slaves within the rebellious states are and henceforward shall be free. We weren't freed until the 13th Amendment took effect December 6, 1865. June 19, 1865 is the day General Granger and his 1,800 soldiers rode into Galveston, Texas and announced over 200,000 people that they were free. I know that was a lot. So basically, June 19th celebrates the slaves in Texas being told they were free 2.5 years after they were legally free. The streets filled with jubilee because slavery was finally abolished. Or so we thought. It said that Karen, Bob, and them showed little to no reaction in the crowd. But I mean, they did get the news 2.5 years ago. June 19th wasn't the celebratory day you may be imagining. General Granger announced our change of status, but not without laying some ground rules. The announcement for the now free laborers that they wouldn't be allowed to collect near military camps, where it was most safe, and that idleness wouldn't be supported there or elsewhere. Granger counseled people to remain quietly with their former owners and enter into labor contracts. You can't make this shit up. But the promise of paid labor wasn't enough for most freed men. It was said that many of them left before he was finished talking. The celebration was short-lived. Whites weren't trying to let go of what they considered their property. So when blacks tried to leave, they were beaten or killed. And that was just one part of Texas, y'all. You can imagine how slow they were to deliver that message. Slave owners weren't letting us go without a fight, and in one of the first great acts of caucasity, they exercised their white privilege not to comply by completely disregarding government orders, holding thousands of people captive long after Juneteenth. The slaves of Aly Simpson weren't freed until he was hung for stealing a horse in 1868. That was 3 years later. Again, their freedom was already in the books. They just didn't know it, and the colonizers weren't going to be the ones to tell them. Let that settle in your spirit. Nevertheless, June 19th is still commemorated as an important day in Black history. Not because it actually ended slavery, but because people who had already been free for over 2.5 years finally knew. So in a sense, it's quite understandable why June 19th may not give Blacks the urge to celebrate or even commemorate a day that has still yet to come. To this day. Celebrate being Black because we are greatness personified. We're the world's most utilized resource. We're indispensable. Our image, creativity, our energy, they're all used to drive sales and set trends, which is probably why they don't want us in the owner's circle. Blacks make up the majority of players in sports like football and basketball, and we're all over the Billboard charts in every form of entertainment. But whites are still the majority owners by an overwhelming percent. According to ESPN, blacks make up about 76% of the NBA, but there are only about 3 black general managers and 1 black owner. Blacks currently own less than 2% of all AM/FM radio stations, and only 10 TV networks are black owned. Black people have tremendous buying power. Black consumers spend more than $1 trillion a year. That's enough to be like one of the top 10 countries in the world. But of course, they're not going to be the ones to tell you that. But I say commemorate Juneteenth because this is truly our Independence Day, another excuse for Black people to barbecue. So fire up the grill and celebrate being free-ish in America. And join us next time here on the Aly Experience for more things they don't want you to know. Until then, we'll see you next time.